on the set of a very big studio movie with an ensemble cast. She had such a miserable experience working with an actor to the extent where she refused to act opposite him, and they would film the cutaway separately because he was on the top of the call sheet and he had this big ego. And it was in the wake of the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds drama with Justin Balboni that this was percolating up. And the rumor is that it's Ryan Reynolds. And this is, again, just a rumor. That is a wasp. Okay,
and
it's gone. It's gone. And the rumor is that he is unpleasant to work for. How London in the sun is just amazing. It's like unrivaled, just really good.
What?
Like it's good. It's like fun.
I'd say all places in the sun.
But here's my point.
Okay, please.
We're all much happier in the sun because of all sorts of reasons, and the energy, especially like out and about, is amazing. Like people are in a good mood. Yeah. There's a vibrance. There's an alive. People are out drinking on the street, the pubs. You go through town. Like yesterday, just perfect. I had to unfortunately cry into like an IMAX-sized cave to go and see Thunderbolts in the middle of the day. But then I came out and it was still sunny, and then I went to go meet friends. We had a picnic in the heath, and it was just, the sun went down. It was like, so perfect. And I have a theory that the reason it is like this is because we don't get enough of it in London. If we were a city like Barcelona, where it's sunny like 9 months of the year, apart from a few, the energy of the people wouldn't lift up when it was sunny like it does in London. And my theory that the intangible feeling of cycling through or being in the city and seeing the energy when the sun's out is better in London than it is in other hot cities because the buzz is in the air. The people are uplifted. The people are out. It's out late. You're chatting. You see all these groups and there's like a buzz. Yeah. Even in Leicester Square, I was like, it's not about it.
I agree with you. I'm substituting every time you say London with UK.
Whatever, wherever you live.
But I agree that if you go through Rome, they get sunshine all the time.
I say London, it's like the busyness of seeing everyone, I think.
Yeah,
and
I think it's also...
I'm observing the energy of others.
Yes.
So when I'm going about and I'm outside and I see all these different things, and it's like I was in town and it was buzzing, and then I was at like a park and it was buzzing, and then in the morning, like over to my coffee, like people like drinking outside. It's not just alcohol. It's like the energy and the aliveness and the outfits and the sunglasses and the sun cream. And I think people are doing more of it because it operates in a smaller window. Yes. So while the UK, London, wherever, is unfortunately like kind of crap for 6 months, and you're sick and it's dark and it's grey, the fact that we only get it for 2 months makes it more worthwhile. It's like that fly that lives for 2 days. Mayfly.
That's it.
There.
And it is May now. I agree with you. And it's like you see all these people having their drinks and on the streets, and it's because it's London and because it's the UK. It's an act of deliberate participation. It's an activity. It's a deliberate, conscious. All these people, we all got one thing in common. We've all made the conscious decision to take our opportunity in the sunshine.
I don't know you, sir, over there. No, I'm over there.
But we have something in common.
We're contributing.
We all saw the sun
energy
that day and went, "Hey, I'm not gonna do something else. I'm gonna do this."
And leaving in the morning when it's sunny and just out in a t-shirt or a shirt. And I'm like, God, I just feel like the day's full of possibilities. And I'm out later and the sun's still out.
It is.
And even as it got later and darker and the midgies started to come out, I wasn't mad.
The midgies.
I was just loving it. You know, like the
I know.
mosquitoes.
I just midgie. I call midges.
Midges. Can't call them that anymore. No, I was like, I'm not even mad. Like, this is just, it's nice to be out. I'll do more things in my day because it's longer.
I love it.
I'm zipping in and out bits.
We're having a beautiful, very early heat wave basically here in the UK right now for our international listeners, and it's gorgeous. It's a massive mood inhibitor, and you're right, because we do live terribly in darkness and rain.
We were thinking it was only a few months ago you made this point. It was really cold outside. We did still film Double Take outside, but in like puffs, like we were just permanently like this. And we were both a little bit sick. It was very dark, very cold, and we just watched the news, and it was Trump being inaugurated. Oh, yeah. It was just end of days with a heater and a blanket.
Oh, it
wasn't
was
that long ago.
No, but it feels like 1,000 years, because also, I guess because of political circumstances, it's endless. But yeah, the sunshine, and in London it's electric. And
do you know what I mean about it's the window that makes it special?
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I think the cities like Barcelona and Lisbon, they're all amazing. I reckon they are just like a more fun vibe.
But it's like if you don't get it now.
But I think there's something about the London version of that summer energy. In some ways, I long for more. That's all.
It is strange going to the cinema on a really hot sunny day.
Yeah.
I went to a 2:30 of Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I did a 4.
And it kind of sort of discombobulated. I was grateful for the aircon.
Yeah.
Which is one thing. But also part of my brain is like, but I want to play outside.
Yeah.
I want to run in the meadows.
I was okay. I sort of like topped and tailed the experience with like outdoor things, so it's fine. Yeah.
Welcome to episode 179 of Pulp Kitchen.
200
Last week,
creeping up
fast.
200.
Last week we talked about hot takes. All the hot takes that came in. They were spicy. They were hot. Hope you enjoyed those.
I love that episode. I thought it was a really, really good episode. When I was editing it, I thought it was great. I sent you a message being like, this is very interesting. We've talked about things a different way than I think we maybe usually do. So we're forcing takes and giving opinions, talked about TV,
up in a new way.
Consistency, legacy. It was really interesting. So go and check it out if you haven't.
And we really enjoyed hearing all of your takes as well, which came in on the email. And don't forget, if you send them in on DM, we've got loads of those. We're going to do another episode in the coming weeks. We'll do another one going through all of those. But today we're talking about Thunderbolts, the new Marvel movie. And talking about Marvel, James, I thought I'd mention that I recently had a Marvel marathon with Anna, and who had only seen spotty bits of Marvel content. I'd say predominantly Guardians. She'd seen she'd seen Endgame half because I was there. But she hadn't really done it properly. And when I came back from LA and I watched Winter Soldier instead of Grey, and we watched the first Avengers, she was like, I'm going to watch these. So she did Cap 1, Captain Winter Soldier, and then I said, right, this is now going into the Easter weekend. I said, we've got one a night. Let's do this. Age of Ultron, boom. Civil War, boom. Ragnarok, boom. Infinity War, Endgame, boom. And I had a great time because they were great. It was great revisiting some of those films actually. Ragnarok, bizarrely I've preferred it on my third watch than I did on my first watch.
Okay.
Winter Soldier I thought was great. Civil War quite enjoyed. I think still think I prefer Winter Soldier. Yeah. But there was what I loved. My main takeaway was watching those films with a spectator, another audience member who isn't as close to it. Yeah. And you and I and our audience as well, we're like very keyed into the ups and downs, the movements of the industry and all the news. And it was a real joy to watch Thor Ragnarok with someone who doesn't know the Hulk's going to turn up.
Oh my God.
What a great joy. Yeah, we knew that.
So true.
It was in the trailer, it was in the poster. But when you're just putting it on Disney Plus,
that's so true.
And I just said, I'll just put this on. Yeah. She didn't know that, and it was like a really great moment. I was like, oh yeah, there's a lot of joy to having these films. So that was nice. I think it kind of got me back in a sort of Marvel-y mood for today's Thunderbolts.
Speaking of Thunderbolts asterisk, going to be talking about that.
Well, it'll be spoiler-free, the review.
Oh yeah, as always, spoiler-free review. I don't think we're doing a spoiler cast. I don't think there's that much.
I don't think we have that much to say about it.
Of things relating to the plot to spoil.
No. All I will say is, we'll get into this, but the longest post-credit scene for a while, I'd say.
Yeah,
quite a substantial.
There was the mid and the post, the proper post.
Yeah, the mid is like the short one, and then the post one was like, oh, this is a good chunk of dialogue.
Yeah, it was like over a minute, which is long.
It wasn't just like someone looking at something and going, It was like script.
It's like I'll have to pay them a visit.
I'd say it's 2 days shooting, maybe.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, I think so. Hair and makeup.
Oh, they could do that in a day.
Different shots, shot reverse shot. You got a couple of different characters in there.
There was a set as well. There was a set. They built a set.
We didn't know how to make movies. This was they had to put lights up. They had people. And the
people in it.
They had to get cars.
Outfits, costumes.
Had to be driven there. Yeah.
Some of them had new hair. Yeah. That's a whole meeting about like.
Some of who had new hair. We don't want to talk about what's in it.
Nope.
Let's get on with Thunderbolts.
Moving on to Marvel, George, episode 36 of the great series that is the franchise that is the MCU. This is Thunderbolts asterisk. The anti-heroes film. It's I think we were calling it Contractual Obligations United.
Yes.
What if we rounded all these up? There's one point in this film when it's sort of some of the more complex and artistic writing to do with Florence Pugh's character. I was like, I think maybe a few years ago they were like, we have like megastar actor in demand Florence Pugh like contracted for a film. What if we tried to do something maybe a little bit more less punchy fighty and we could round up all the other people we promised to film for? And that's what Thunderbolts is. As I said, it stars Florence Pugh as Black Widow / Yelena Belova, who I keep calling Baklava, which is food.
No. Are we calling her Black Widow? Did you call her Black Widow just then?
From Black Widow.
Sorry,
is she Black Widow?
No. I'm not calling her that.
If you saw Black Widow,
yes,
that's
of course.
where she's from.
Yes.
You've got Lewis Pullman, who plays Bob. Geraldine Viswanathan, who played Mel, who I saw in Driveway Dolls and thought was really funny. But that film wasn't
I think we
funny.
spoke to her at Sundance. She wore a really nice coat. You interviewed her, James.
Yes, I did. David Harbour, who plays Red Guardian.
Red Guardian.
Wyatt Russell has a US agent, but who's also like was the new Captain America at one time, John Walker, and he sort of like was Captain America, then sort of like fell from grace.
Has he had serum? That's what I didn't know because I didn't watch.
Yeah,
that's
had
what I
super
thought.
serum.
Yeah.
And then you got Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, who's fresh off his Apprentice set, straight into Thunderbolts. So the film opens with action sequence from Florence Pugh, and she's falling off one of the tallest buildings in the world. She says, "You want to know a little bit about my life? I'm feeling a little bit bored, a little bit depressed. Nothing really hits the same." Meanwhile, she's very bored.
That's how I feel about the MCU.
It's all very grey. Like there's an amazing action stunt happening, but I'm just like, yeah. You know, she actually like fell off the building on wires. You know, but she's Tom Cruise, but she did actually fall off the building. But it's a bit of a tangent, but it did something about the way that was presented, not communicate enough the fact that she was in a real place doing the real thing.
Yes,
it's in the trailer. She does this like Assassin's Creed style fall off. I think it's the second tallest building in the world, and it just. I don't know what it is about the quality of it. I was like, that you could have saved your money maybe and done that on a volume.
Yeah, it's more that it looked cool, but I agree. Yeah. It's like when you say to me, Florence Pugh actually did that, I have to go, oh, did she?
Yeah.
But maybe it's really expensive to make it look really real.
Yeah. Anyway, she's a little bit depressed, a little bit ennui, and she's doing
ennui,
and she is doing. Hold on, let me get the full character's name because it's quite lengthy. She is doing contract work for Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Valentina, or oh god, where is it? I just lost
something de Fontaine.
Director Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Doing contract work, and it's slightly monotonous. She has a corridor fight scene, which she does with enormous ease, bumping into some sort of. Meanwhile, de Fontaine is being indicted, impeached.
Yeah.
One of them.
She's
in front of a helicopters.
She's a CIA director who's, I think they're
meddling in some stuff she shouldn't be.
It's like a select committee. They're reviewing her oversight. Like she's got too many fingers and too many pies because she used to do something with Corp, not to be confused with
Oscorp. She's doing something she shouldn't be, and the executive, the governing branch, trying to sort of like bring her down, but it's not going to work because she's very, very mysterious. But Florence Pugh takes a job to go down.
Sorry, what is happening?
I don't know what's going on. It's really
there's like multiple helicopters and sirens.
Coming across. There's a lot going on. This is so end of days. It's like the world could be ending. We're like the new MCU. Yeah. Really?
Sorry, I like Mrs.
God, sirens on our end. What fire engine? That's a fire engine I just saw.
And I think that was a fire helicopter.
Wow, big fire. Okay.
Sorry, James.
Anyway,
Allegra de Fontaine person.
She calls Florence Pugh to this specific location to eliminate a very specific target. On that job, she meets all of the other members of what we now know as the Thunderbolts, who have all been contracted with killing each other in a sort of comedy of errors. They all realize they've been contracted to
clear up
the
dirty work.
To clear up the dirty work in a location which they were going to sort of dispose of the people who know and the evidence itself. Meanwhile, they meet Bob, played by Lewis Pullman, who has through certain circumstances been put in this scenario, and something is not quite as it seems with him. They realize that they're better off as a group. They group together, call themselves the Thunderbolts, and the film kind of goes from there. And it's it's kind of like a Suicide Squad type format.
With some kind of Suicide Squad,
some sort of Suicide Squad with the bad guys.
Yeah.
So that was the Marvel. That was the Thunderbolts in the Marvel universe. I'd say just before you jump into what you're thinking, I'd like, and you think you can tell it in our voices. Of late, George and I have been slightly wearied and not too enthused by the offerings of the MCU.
Yeah,
like post Endgame, there's maybe one or two films which I'd point out and be like, that was a great time, or certain parts of that scene is a great time. But there is a lot of fatigue knocking around and questioning why it's there. They're not quite sort of reaching the levels that they used to. Our impression of Brave New World, which you can check out from a few months ago, is quite lukewarm. But yeah, George, how did you get on with Thunderbolts?
Well, funny what you say there. I think that a problem that I think audience members have is that when you talk about the MCU, we've fallen into this narrative now. Whenever we talk about the latest MCU film, it becomes a referendum on where the MCU is, and it's become this big statement on, oh my God, are we back? Is it good? Is it still falling apart? And I think going into this, and what I'm going to try and do with this review is like, I'm very much just trying to focus on what's in front of me and what's in front of us and what's presented to us.
And also, when you're burdened with trying to intro this film, there is this like responsibility, like, how much should I explain how much do I even remember to explain to you if you don't know what's going on, and how much do I care, and how much should I review this as a singular film experience versus like a part of this much larger series? And it's kind of a bit of both. It makes it quite difficult.
So I didn't really follow a lot of the Disney Plus shows. I kind of approached this as a kind of newcomer. I mean, I knew the Ghost character from Ant-Man 2, and like, you know, Florence Pugh I'd never seen in Black Widow, but the John Walker character I never watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so it wasn't. Yeah. So I'm just trying to focus on what's in front of me and what works for that reason. So I think, broadly speaking, I think it's fine. There's been a lot of praise about it. It's like the third highest rated Marvel movie on Rotten Tomatoes. I think people have got a little bit overexcited at the fact that this is competent, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's basically what I expect on a kind of entry level, that these films are competent. And the best thing I could say about it is, like, I think it's the most competent original non-sequel post-Endgame Marvel movie, right?
That little badge.
That's the asterisk. That's what the asterisk stands for. Because if you think about everything post-Endgame, the only original ones, by which I mean starting with a new character, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and I think, is that it? Marvels was a sequel, Doctor Strange was a sequel, Ant-Man sequel, Guardians sequel. They've all been sequels, Spider-Man. And yes, this is drawing on existing characters, but broadly speaking, it's a new entity. So I think actually it's the most competent one of that kind of film. I think it's directed by a guy called Jake Schreier. I think he's given it a different look. It feels quite fresh. It feels a little bit different.
I think the look of it was, to me, stood out as being very boring and uninspiring. Yeah, I thought visually it did just nothing.
But it's meant to be reduced color palette, like drawn back a bit because of the kind of themes.
I see that. It didn't look like anything to me.
I thought it had a weight to it that the other MCU films didn't have. It didn't have like the kind of like colourful.
I found like visually just sort of fell into bed anyway.
Sorry. And you know, I was broadly surprised with, like, I thought a lot of the comedic beats would irritate me. They actually didn't. I thought David Harbour actually, as Red Guardian, comes in, and I was actually enjoying his time. But there is a kind of niggling fundamental thing, which is like, I couldn't say I really cared. Yeah. And I don't know if that's about my relationship with the MCU on a personal level, whether it's not these things for me. I saw it with a friend who enjoyed it much more. I think it's also the fact that, like, you have all these characters who I sort of know in varying levels. And I kind of, like, yeah, it was passingly entertaining having them on screen, but, like, I really struggled to really get behind it and really care about it. I think having Florence Pugh as the lead is genius, because she is fantastic. Yeah. And she does the thing where she speaks Russian with an English accent. She speaks English with a Russian accent for the whole movie, but actually it works. Whereas David Harbour's doing, like, a caricature. Yeah. But that's the kind of thing I'd say. It's kind of, it's not a bad movie. No. It's kind of, people are, is it great? It's good enough. Yeah. I think it's a step in the right direction. I am a little surprised at the amount of enthusiasm for it, but not a bad film. It's good enough. That's how I think.
Me too, and I think because of that, I'm disappointed, because I thought there were so many good impressions coming out of the early screenings, and that A24 trailer was like electric and colourful. And I think now I've seen it, I found it quite insubstantial and fine. Was a bad time had watching it? Not really. There are very few moments I could point in the film where I went, oh, that sucked, or that didn't work. That's not the case with this. No. I just found it, like, really didn't move the needle for me. It didn't sort of challenge me in any way. It's just about okay. Visually, I didn't find it particularly engaging or having a sort of sense of identity, being that it's like a new thing, a new group of characters. Unfortunately, I really didn't find it funny. I think, like, a lot of the humor, David Harbour, I just disagree. The only thing he could do was just shout, and that was funny. He'd be like, yes, I am this. I'm like, it just wasn't funny to me, and it did start to annoy me. And a lot of the humor was like, what do you think of this costume? I don't know. What about the thing? Well, what about the hair? I don't know. Do you like this? That's the only joke I think they had, which I think is a shame. I do think maybe a few years ago they were like, we've got Florence Pugh, like one of the hot young actors of the time. Like, what could we do with her that's a little bit more interesting and challenging? And within the film is somewhat an interesting allegory for grief and depression and not having the past define you. And the solution to the problem isn't necessarily to use all of your power, but to instead use empathy as a means for disarming something. I think that's all a really nice message that, you know, comes through. I just think that, given we are so late in Marvel, I'm always just surprised that the story you're still choosing to tell is something that can't evolve and iterate and challenge me more. It just didn't challenge me, which I think is just a bit of a shame. And therefore, although I'm saying it's fine, it's not a flawed movie, I'm criticizing it a little bit more for not rising to the occasion just a bit more. And also, I think like a lot of the characters in the Thunderbolts are really underutilized. Like, Bucky is a senator for like 5 minutes, and we end Cat Brave New World, and he's like, Bucky's a senator now, he's in this new role. And there's one scene where he does some House of Cards stuff, and it's immediately abandoned. Why pursue that in the first place? And then he's never really given much of a role. I will say Florence Pugh is really, really good in it, and she's, of all of them, a character, and Bucky maybe, I'm really looking forward to seeing again. I want to see her interact with other Avengers for the stuff that happens later. Outside of that, I thought that Hannah John Carmen was really underused. I feel like Wyatt Russell was sort of hinted at something a little bit more deep, but again, not really used as a character. There's moments in the third act where I thought they were really going to double down and have an impact with what the villain was doing and make some hard decisions, but it kind of unwinded everything in the end. So therefore, had nothing for me to really sort of like chew on.
I agree with you about Bucky. It's quite frustrating because Sebastian Stan, we know, is a really great actor.
Yes, absolutely.
A new point of his career. There's a real opportunity to do something new with that character. As you were saying, now he's a senator. What could it be? And it's just like they don't really know what to do with him. He's second billing in this film, but it really he felt like the least... The character they gave the least amount of time to, actually.
No, they didn't know what to do with it. Like, we've obligated these people for films. We don't quite know where to put them.
And there's a line where he mentions his past. He says, my past is great. I've had a great time. But, like, we really aren't shown. We're given more of John Walker, even a little bit more of maybe Ghost, but, like... It's such a shame. It felt a little bit like a contractual obligation.
I think what I'm talking about when I said it doesn't visually interest me, and I think why Fantastic Four is getting so much hype and buzz, and granted they have the period aesthetic, which really helps, but I look at it and it looks like different and just it has its own real sense of identity and branding, and like it's got the score that's really in your face. And I look at just Thunderbolts and like, I'll say the costumes are bad. They're just like muddied and uninteresting and generic. And outside of Florence Pugh, it just nothing was giving me anything to chew on.
So I think I feel a little bit more positively than you. I really didn't mind it. I just was disappointed that it didn't come away with more. But hearing you talk about it, I do wonder sometimes if we need to have in our minds that we are getting older now, and maybe the people in their early 20s, late teens might be responding to this more.
For sure.
And broadly speaking, some of the content creators we know who are much younger seem to be having a stronger reaction to it.
Yeah.
And I accept that it gets less and less interesting to hear men growing into their 30s and older saying what they really think about the MCU. I get it. And so I just think that just hearing you talk about it, I was like, maybe that's something as well. Maybe we're just growing up.
Very different from cinema. Yeah, this is like point
because the fact is,
about like they're trying. Why Marvel is banking on so much nostalgia for Doomsday and Secret Wars is because the fans that grew up watching Marvel have essentially outgrown potentially the series itself, and because there's not much of a story to bring to a conclusion, they have to bank on your nostalgia to get you back into the cinema. We don't have like an established villain or a conflict or a set of characters that really like anchor us to the series anymore.
If you're a young Marvel fan who maybe was, 13 when Endgame came out, and now you're 19, wow. Are you maybe this is still hitting the mark for you. This is still offering something that you can engage into for the next few years. But I think maybe we're on the other side of it a little bit now. I don't know. Other people might disagree.
I think that A24 trailer, for me, I don't know, it maybe made me think this was going to be something a little bit more interesting than it was.
I thought it was just a cynical exercise, really, to target people like us.
Target us,
because the fact is, you and I, if you said, I have a Florence Pugh and Sebastian Stan movie to show you, it wouldn't be this. It would be some other A24 type movie.
Yeah.
So I respect the fact that maybe we're a bit older for it. I feel broadly okay with it. Also, like, the MCU has been very bad, and like Ant-Man and 2023 I feel like was a real nadir. And I do think this is a step in the right direction. We might look back in a few years and go, Thunderbolts was okay, but it was the beginning of a course correction that then went into Fantastic Four, which was better, then went into Doomsday and Secret Wars, which really reset things, and then we...
Just to counter your argument about we're outgrowing it,
sure.
like you've been rewatching some of the MCU films, and it's not just the nostalgia that's making you enjoy some of the better picks. I do genuinely believe there is a quality to those better movies that they've just somehow not been able to recreate and do with. Like, there's not the energy of Guardians starting its own series here. I feel like the Thunderbolts is just going to be this one-off thing, and then they'll move it on because they needed to do something with this pool of characters. I think it's more that, like, because we've done so many big stories, we've told the biggest story possible. I often now think it doesn't necessarily work as much to tell these smaller stories where there's a mini conflict and something just doesn't quite amount to anything. It feels like you're just trying to keep people engaged and busy for the time being.
So when I went to the cinema with my friend Dan, and we came back and we were just talking about Marvel and stuff, and he had this take, which I thought was really interesting. We kind of expanded on it in the drive home. We were talking about how post-Endgame sort of, what changed and what happened with all the Disney shows and what went wrong. And he like loathes She-Hulk. Like, he was like the real worst thing he's ever seen.
He hates women.
Green women. Yeah. And he was saying, wouldn't it have been great? I know this is all the hindsight thinking, but here's my pitch to you, James. If I could like open up a portal and you're Kevin Feige and I go back, even though you look like Bob, by the way, from the movie.
Yeah, I am kind of looking
real
like
Bob vibes.
Lewis Pullman a bit.
If I open up a portal, go back to Kevin Feige in like 2016 and say, look, here's my pitch for post-Endgame. You want to do Disney Plus shows? Great. You set them all in a completely different universe, right? You still have Loki, because the whole point is Loki is out of that strand now. He's between universes. That kicks it off. And on the television shows, you build a separate universe that is disconnected from the main cinema, and that allows you the creative space and freedom to explore new stories, explore that without the weight of coming in. But all the while, you're teasing in, a bit like Bad Wolf in Doctor Who, a greater threat, and you're doing the same in the films. And what you have is two concurrent stories running parallel, and then people will be like, oh my God, they're going to merge in Doomsday and Secret Wars. You're going to have the TV universe and the MCU collide, come in, and that way you can then bring the TV characters on to make films. And I was like, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, and you can have that evil, whatever you want it to be, pop up in both.
And also it gives a reason, yes, exactly, the same evil to be sort of bouncing between both stories, and it gives you a reason then to watch the TV shows, because it's like, well, I've seen one side of the story, but actually maybe I should invest in the other one.
I agree, that sounds great.
That doesn't sound great.
So I probably like the luxury of planning and foresight that I don't think they get. But the Bad Wolf comparison is really smart. And even like the better shows like WandaVision, they don't necessarily complement the films, and they felt like they were incongruent to the arcs that were there. And it does feel like you just made a TV division and a film division, and we'll worry about tying them up later. That
was exactly the problem with Doctor Strange 2, right? Multiverse of Madness, because WandaVision was great, and then it like the writers of Doctor Strange hadn't seen, they didn't look at each other's notes, and you had this kind of clash. Anyway, it does. I was going back to what I said at the start of the review. I don't want to get stuck in the quagmire of always talking about the state of the MCU, where's it going, how it can be faced. On the film that's in front of us, I think it's okay. It's fine. It's not the MCU's best. I think it's like mid.
No, it's not. It's not touching the top.
No way. I think it's like just sort of like mid.
It's of the least bad of the films that have come out post Endgame. Yeah. Like I said, it's nothing particularly about it that is poor or bad, or like there's no bad acting and there's no bad sequences. I think actually, I'll give a shout out to one action scene in the middle where they meet what is going to become the villain, who's very powerful.
Yes,
it's not a spoiler, and it's done with it's really cool angles, and I thought all of that was really creatively done and threatening, and I thought that was good.
And actually, there is a corridor fight, but shot from above with silhouettes and shadows. I thought that was quite good. And when the characters all meet each other for the first time in that sort of ensnared moment, I thought, oh, nice
little bit of dynamic here.
Yeah. Anyway, that was Thunderbolts.
Just before, VIP Harry Watley just commented on our story when we posted we were seeing it and said, effing fantastic. Really, really enjoyed it. Must say, though, ends quite poor, IMO. We won't spoil the ending, but I actually thought the resolution to the conflict was the more sort of like emotionally, it was like the MCU sort of offering a little bit more of an interesting complexity to...
Yeah, talking around without doing spoilers, like thematically very successful and very interesting. Yeah. But it also, for me, I was like, we're now engaging in a sort of metaphorical space. So the sort of so like
fifth layer of the Inception dream logic. There was a bit where anything can happen.
When it's like buildings crumbling and things like that, I'm like, but like anything can happen. Yeah, this isn't real.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Let us know what you thought about Thunderbolts, and we will read them out on the show next week.
It was definitely written by someone who's been depressed and who has a haunted past and who wants to comment. There's also things about like the way it makes me feel and the void of the darkness. If you indulge the darkness, you indulge it. If you try to do revenge, it will allow that side of you to thing. And I'm like, yeah, okay. What's your favourite MCU film? Gun to your head.
Guardians 1.
Guardians 1. Yeah.
Always got a soft spot for that. Love it.
Yeah.
First film I ever took myself to see on my own to the cinema.
Yeah.
I've lots of
also
warm
saw
memories.
that alone.
I think it's a nice, complete film. Great soundtrack. Great.
Yeah.
Art. I think it really just delivers as a standalone movie.
It's cute.
You?
I think Civil War.
Oh, that's quite good. I really used to get. Yeah.
I kind of think about it, and then I think like I've had the most fun at Endgame and Infinity War, but like Civil War. You know what I really like in that scene? I like the scene when they fight and fall out, and he smashes his shield into Tony Stark's core, and it's a proper breakup. It's a proper fallout.
Yeah.
And that film starts and ends with our characters in a completely different place.
Yes.
And I always think that's a good sign of a story when characters haven't just like, they start the film all happy family, they go and do something, but then they end again as happy family, or family, whatever it is. I love them. Like, God, you need to see that these people are changed forever.
Yes, I agree.
And
with that.
I rate it for doing that. And I think it's that quality that's really missing in a lot of the other MCU films in a way. It's kind of why Tom Holland's Spider-Man 3, I like, even though the first half of it I think is a bit wishy-washy. If you haven't seen that film, you don't know what's happened to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He's really changed forever. Anyway.
No, very good.
Should we go through some emails, George?
Yes, let's read out some of the emails on the show.
It's like if you want to send an email into the show, you can do by sending it to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, or you can support us on the VIP tier on Patreon to have priority access to have your email read out on the show. This one is from
Liz.
Lizzie writes in and says, "Hi, James and George. I'm an expat living in Melbourne for over 20 years and have always loved film banter, which in the advent of the podcast enabled me to enjoy the witterings of Kermode and Mayo for many years. Over the past year, multiple events in both my personal and business life have greatly affected my mental health, and sometimes it's a struggle to get from one day to the next. Forcing myself to get out and go for a walk each day to alleviate some of my battles was made all the more easier when I discovered your podcast last year through TikTok's spurious algorithm. Whilst I still love and listen to Messrs K and M, I've now found myself putting your podcast to the top of my playlist as I really enjoy your light-hearted banter, reviews and games, and always eagerly await your next episode. Sirens on our end. I want to thank you both for keeping me going through some very difficult and challenging times, and hope you can continue for the foreseeable future and know that you are making a difference to someone's life. As an aside, my favorite movie has been and always will be Aliens, and in one of the many ways it's infiltrated both my personal and work life. I'm proud to say that the director of Wayland Yutani, Australia, building better IT worlds. Thanks again, Liz. That's really sweet, and I totally feel that love, and I know exactly that feeling. I've had it multiple times when like I've been up and down, and just putting on my really familiar favorite podcast on a commute or a walk is like the best escape. It's a familiarity of like overhearing a conversation with friends, and it's comments like that that really just like make us want to keep going and keep doing. Not that we're like thinking of stopping, but it's it keeps the fire in the engine.
I agree.
For sure.
It's like we really appreciate that email, because also like you've not written in with a film question or anything. You've just taken it upon yourself to pay a compliment, and actually that's sometimes very hard for people to do. People are very quick to complain, and it's we ask people to ask their questions, but for someone to actually take the time to sit down and write that, we really appreciate it.
And also,
thank you so much.
candidly, like that, they're Kermode and Mayo, massive inspirations for what we do
Love
with
them.
this show in terms of the structure of our review. And I think we wouldn't be probably doing this without the inspiration of what they did. So
Absolutely.
Hats off to those guys.
They are, Mark Kermode is the godfather of British
the
film
radio review. Yeah. The godfather of the 6 to 11 minute film review.
Yes, and also he's do them under 2. There'd be a couple of us would be like 2 minutes to the news. He'd be like, okay, well, let's quickly do.
Yeah.
This next email, we got a couple of emails about Sinners, which we reviewed a couple of weeks ago, been a massive success. So let's read out a few. One from Matthias, who writes in and says, "Hello, George and James and George. Just wanted to write in about Sinners, which I saw in IMAX a couple of days ago.
Good on you.
This movie has definitely been on my mind, and I don't really know how to feel about it. I agree with everything you said about the blending of genres, the beautiful shots with the standout scene in the middle of the movie. All the characters are great, etc. Overall, I had a great time with it, and would definitely recommend everyone to go and experience this on the big screen. However, I did leave the cinema feeling like something was missing from the film. On the one hand, in the first half of the movie, you had this great slow setup and story about 2 twin brothers coming back or escaping a life of crime and the things that they did there. Whereas the second half went into the horror vampire storyline. The blending of genres I didn't mind at all, but plot-wise, I just felt like they had 2 good movies in there, or they could have had one great one if they had just chosen the first or the latter. Also, and this is possibly a spoiler, but going into this movie without seeing any of the trailers, since the last trailer gave away way too much of the plot, which also possibly influenced my experience of the movie. Keep up the great work as usual, guys. I've been enjoying my trips to the cinema more and more lately, and your recommendations have definitely been a big part of that. Kind regards, Matthias.
It is, much as I enjoyed it, there is something a bit muddled about it, because much as I enjoyed being in the company of that first 45 minutes and like, what do you want to talk about? Like wealth, culture, black identity, music, all of that is like really interesting. And I was almost slightly thrown at all the things it was picking up on. I go, God, this feels like it's got so much more to say than I would have maybe given it credit for. But that is almost cast aside a little bit for the action and the sort of like the action dynamic between the guys trying to come into the party and the chaos and the violence. It's sort of left a bit and maybe come back at the end. Still interesting though.
I think probably to get the true measure of Sinners, I'll just need to see it again because it's so different.
Yeah.
I think so much of our first experience, or maybe I'll speak for myself, but like so much of my first experience was just taking it in. You're just getting the measure of it. Yeah. And because it's so different now, I think I'd love to dive back in and watch it again and really pick up on the nuances and see how it's constructing itself, for better or worse.
Yeah.
But when I will do that, who knows? Thank you, Matthias.
This next one is from Yanis, who writes in Michael17, Robert Pattersoners.
Interesting.
Hello, James. And George with 2 vampires.
Oh, yeah, Yanis. Yes. Yanis loves the emojis.
Yep,
Back the emojis.
Emoji Yanis. I've been hearing a lot of buzz, Bumblebee emoji,
Thank you.
surrounding Sinners, and especially since it's an original film. And after hearing your review, I was eager to see it in cinemas. Yeah, because it was a positive review.
Yeah,
for people who said we didn't like it, that we had pre-existing ideas.
Listen.
Wow. I'm not normally too big on horrors, but this one really stuck with me. I really have to applaud the set designers and actors because everything within the town felt so real.
Emojis.
3 clapping emojis. I also mean that with the horror aspects of it as well.
Yeah,
you read emojis.
Like the stage directions.
Yes, please. I also, like Mark Hamill reading the script for Force Awakens. I also mean that with the horror aspects of it as well, still feeling grounded within the context of the time period and world, although the thing near the end,
fire emoji, something,
did take away a bit of the immersion for me. This blending of genres really worked in its favor in a way that other directors might not have done so smoothly. And then there's that scene.
Woman dancing emoji, man dancing emoji, electric guitar symbol.
Which is so incredibly bold and mesmerizing that I really just had to sit back and take in the music, cinematography, and choreography. I wasn't fully expecting it, but I'm surprised to see it work so well within the film. Personally, it was brilliantly paced, and because it's a fairly self-contained narrative, the steady build-up of tension and setup of events went on for just the right amount of time. Have to be honest though, although the red and blue color schemes were supposed to make both Michael B. Jordans distinguishable, it did become difficult over time to remember who's who and what's happening to who.
2 identical emojis of people and one character going, I don't know.
Really refreshing film that I fully recommend others to see. P.S. I'm truly shocked around a third of the way through someone's phone rang and they picked up. It was about probably a 30-second to 1-minute conversation, but still.
People, man. Honestly, people.
People are liking Sinners. Go and see it.
This next email about Sinners is from Aidan, who writes and says, to George and James and George, I hope you're both doing well. I just got out of the cinema an hour ago after watching Sinners, and I had to share my thoughts. As someone who's a big fan of Ryan Coogler's work, I actually prefer his Creed films to the Rocky films. Well, actually, he only made Creed 1. He didn't make Creed 2. I checked.
You do 3.
No, Michael B. Jordan directed that.
Yes, well done, well remembered.
So, thank you. First, the positives. The music was incredible, and the set design and costumes felt authentic, and the acting was strong. But the movie itself didn't click for me. The pacing was uneven, and it never settled on what kind of story it wanted to tell. Selfishly, maybe, I just didn't get what it was trying to say. By the end, I didn't feel anything, which is a shame because I wanted to be moved. I honestly think I would have preferred a straightforward drama about a juke joint struggling against racism in the 30s with great music and cinematography, minus the vampires. I do kind of see that because that is an interesting story in itself.
Yeah,
the vampires is like, you've got like quite a rich cake anyway, and someone's just like loads of fucking icing on top of that.
Because it also wants to be a really fun film. And it is. Like the violence in the end is fun. Jack O'Connell, I love the way they are toying with the vampire rules.
Yes.
Like that's all really good fun.
Not scary.
No, it's shocking. There's some jump scares.
Yes.
And some musical cues, but it's not a horror. I wouldn't describe it as a horror.
For me, simply this movie just didn't flow, and none of the big moments felt earned, and the was just so sloppy. I mean, come on, it was versus I do believe this had the great ingredients to be great, but it just tried to do too much. For the first time ever, I'm actually considering going back to the cinema to rewatch and hope it lands with me for this time. Maybe I'm expecting too much from the movie. What do you think? Best regards, Aidan. P.S. This year, I'm trying to watch every A24 movie I haven't seen, and I've just watched Waves, and it's probably one of my favorite films I've seen so far. it was incredibly powerful, and the cinematography was absolutely stunning. If you've seen it, I'd love to know what your thoughts. I have seen it, and if not, I definitely recommend it. Very emotional. I have seen Waves. Have you seen Waves?
No.
I have seen Waves. Sterling K. Brown movie, A24 movie, came out late 2019, early 2020. I remember it being not bad, quite well directed, a bit flawed. It's very much, it's like A Place Beyond the Pines. It does like two halves of a movie.
Sure.
But yeah,
trying to complete the A24U there.
A24
universe.
Oh,
you know,
A24U.
It was a franchise.
Phones for you.
Next up, Jake writes in about Warfare, which we reviewed a couple of weeks ago. Hello, Jomas and George.
Nice compromise.
Long-time listener, first-time emailer, and new patron subscriber here. Jake, we salute you. Thank you so much. Don't forget, you guys can check out Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to our news show, Double Take. Just wanted to give my thoughts on Warfare, which I had the pleasure of watching this Easter weekend. You guys hit on a lot of points in your review, so I won't go into too much, other than the things I appreciated as someone who served. As you're aware...
Sorry, because Jake titles his email... What did you say?
What I appreciated as an ex-soldier, so this is really interesting to hear. As you're aware, it was written and directed by one of the soldiers in this very film, so it was always going to be realistic. Things it got so right. For once, we got a movie that actually made the equipment a character itself. I understand in a film like American Sniper, brackets propaganda shite, the emotions of the soldier are at the forefront of the actor's mind, not the physical toll of carrying food, water, ammunition, etc. However, it has really felt like Hollywood filled body armor and backpacks with helium lately. This is until I watched this. It was exhausting watching this film, not only because of the scenario and action playing out, but watching the soldiers carrying 45 kilograms plus of equipment and dragging a casualty, brackets at least 80 kilograms, but about 125 kilograms with said equipment is extremely challenging. The sound design, good God, the sound design. There were no exaggerations. If you're cracked in the head and want to know what it sounds like to be shot at for an explosive to go off near you, now you have.
Wow.
The radio communications and radio tactics were pretty much flawless. The 20-second maximum chat before breaking and checking for a reply is an integral and frustrating part of radio chatter, and is obviously skipped in every other film due to how slow it can be to get all the info out if needed. But this film didn't have this drawback. It was very much a crucial part of it. Just how quiet half of Warfare is, a good 15 to 20 minutes of this film, it's a gradual build-up with a silence pushing the anxiety into the viewer. Excuse me. It really felt like it was back with the lads as they sat about watching the outside and listening to all of the movements of other units. First of all of that, that's brilliant observations about quietness, noise, the pauses between correspondence, between someone else waiting, the monotony of it, but still somehow using that to build tension and to create something cinematic and to contrast that with the second half of the film. That's really interesting to see. Jake goes on to say, here's two tiny nitpicks I can give it, which are barely worth mentioning. That's that new guy energy. No, not in 2006.
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't say that
kind of way people talk. Just something that might be a spoiler, so I might just not read that one out. All in all, it was another fantastic showing from Alex Garland and, of course, Ray Mendoza, and one I will never bring myself to watch again, which leads me to my two questions. Firstly, with Alex Garland writing and producing 28 years later, I've never been more excited for an unnecessary sequel. The standout to why I'm excited for it, though, is the marketing. The trailers have been incredible, especially with the harrowing addition of Boots, read by Rudyard Kipling, playing in the background.
That's what it is.
I didn't pick up on that at all. Can you think of a time where the marketing for a movie have been so good that even though you'd never normally think twice about it, you're now so excited? Secondly, sorry if this has been spoken out before, but I have a feeling it may have been. What's a film you've absolutely loved but couldn't bring yourself to watch again? As I said, Warfare is now one of them, but for instance, another that comes to mind is Raw. It's probably my favourite foreign language film, but it's just so bloody grim, I can't pick it up again. Hope you both have a lovely Easter weekend and enjoyed the few shrinkflated Easter eggs. I look forward to listening. Kindest regards, Jake. So just quickly, with Alex Garland doing marketing for a movie that's been so good that even though you never normally think twice about it, you're now so excited. I mean, loads of instances where marketing's been really good. It's hard to pin down if I wasn't excited, but then a good trailer made me excited. I'd probably said I wouldn't have been excited for a new Superman, but I looked at the new trailer for the Superman. There's that one shot where he catches that kid. And they're shooting on a really wide, 20 mil. And I just go, God, I do want to see Superman on the big screen. So there's something like that's an example.
I even had it with the Fantastic Four trailer a little bit.
Yes,
I was
that
actually looks quite good. Fresh. Like I said, toothpaste.
You know what's fun is like I think you can see it in IMAX, but they've got the old school like movie logos on it at the end, so you can watch it in Fantastivision, which is just just little fun moments like that. Aesthetic design, and then
good films you would never want to watch again.
A few. I mean, honestly, I'd say Warfare because it's a film I really liked.
Yeah.
I found it very effective, but it's a very unpleasant experience to take in. It's harrowing, and I like the fact that I saw it in cinema with the sound, and it shook me and it shocked me, and I don't particularly want to experience it again. But not to say that's a criticism of the film. Like Son of Saul, we used as an example of that. Versus if we were to talk about the Holocaust, like the Schindler's List, I have seen twice, and I want to see it again because I've not seen it in a really long time. Though it's just as harrowing and uncomfortable, there's something about it that makes it a bit more engaging for me to remember.
Zone of Interest. Even though I don't quite rate it as highly as you did, I don't think I ever need to see it because I got it.
Yeah,
I saw it, got it.
Yeah.
Very interesting point.
Yeah.
And like halfway through the movie, I was like, I've got it.
I don't think I need to see that again either.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And another email from Zach about Warfare. Hello, James and George and James. Just seen Warfare and had a great time with it, as much as someone can with a heavy film like it. The performances were brilliant and the sound design worked perfectly. Combined, it created a nightmare of a second half, which I thought I was going to throw up whenever they cut back to Joseph Quinn's character. It truly is a film which is heightened by watching it in a cinema environment. But walking away from it, I felt as if it was missing something. Despite the film being good for what it sets out to do, show that one... which sets out to do, which is to show that one, mission / fight. I kept on asking myself throughout, why should I care for these characters? Knowing the film begins with it announcing this is a true story, I felt it little to no connection to any of the characters on screen. It's not often I think like this, but I feel like the film would have benefited with an extra 15 minutes at the beginning before the set off for the mission to establish relationships with the platoon, which would have made events later feel more impactful, like Jarhead. I especially felt this when there was an interaction between Will Poulter and Charles Melton's characters, as they seemed to be good friends and genuinely care about each other's feelings and well-being, but there was no context to it, so it felt like a passing moment. The 90 or so minutes that it shows are brilliant, but I think it could have been elevated to something else if we were allowed to establish the characters, not even their backstories or anything too deep, but simply their relationships and connections they have with each other, which would have made the events later on more impactful, at least for me. Kind regards, Zach. Yeah, I see your point. I mean, I think that's what it's trying to do when they're in the early half of the film, when they're kind of sat around in silence. That's trying to do it there. And it goes back to the thing we said before about Warfare, which is like, it's clearly a deliberate decision not to do that.
Yeah.
Because they want to try and do something else. It might not have been very successful with it. That's all.
In most films, you get the girlfriend of one of the people, the parents of someone. It's like in Last Breath, which I reviewed a few weeks ago, the main person in question has a scene with their partner in the first 5 minutes of the film. And it just creates a sense of like, oh, this person whose life is at stake has got something to lose.
Has an exterior life.
It's just a scene.
Or like, in Captain Phillips, like his wife drives to the thing at the beginning. That's all we see of her.
Yeah. It's just, there's lots of disaster films, war films, they all kind of jump in on that. This next one's from Mary, says, hi, George in Games.
Nice.
Huge fan of the pod. Listening to you chat is like listening to the Stephen Fry narration of Harry Potter, which James knows is the highest praise. That is
great.
I could only touch the Stephen Fry audio.
Have I told you that that's what Anna listens to in the car? So sometimes when we get in the car, you just plug it in and it'll just be like, no, said Harry, that's Voldemort's thing.
Come on, Harry. Isn't he brilliant?
He's fantastic.
I genuinely forget that it's not just my own brain reading the characters as I know them. Fantastic. The content is incredibly interesting and stimulating, but the general vibe is so warm and charming that I often re-listen just for the feeling of cozy contentment alone. Your podcast has honestly seen me through some rough times, so thank you. As an aside, I'm curious to hear what your favourite podcasts are.
Thank you,
George.
Favourite podcast?
Favourite podcast?
I spent so much time doing the podcasting that I don't do. I mean, I'm very sort of top line, mainstream. Like I like Rest is Politics over lunch usually when I'm working from home. Maybe Off Menu. I'd never listened to Off Menu until like 2 months ago ever.
Oh, right, nice.
So I listen to sometimes that when I'm cooked. But I'm music really.
I'm enjoying Waveform. If you love tech, it's Marquez Brownlee's podcast. They do like all the tech analysis really well. I am enjoying Views with David Dobrik and Jason Nash. It is just funny, like dumb fun. Newsagents, Rest is Politics.
Yeah.
Idiot by Laura Clary is really funny. I find her so funny. And the ones she does with Mann and Matthews, I laugh so much. And then Friends of the Show, who are always on like a bit of a podcast hiatus, but when they do it, it's really funny. The Lack of Focus podcast with Matt Bentley and Harvey Quinn. They are kind of in character for the whole thing as like narcissistic actors, which is kind of who they are. But if you like a laugh and you like, they're actors and they talk about acting all the time. So that one's really funny. So I'd recommend those. Oh, and anything the Van Tullochen brothers do, like I think they're doing, what's it called? Like a simple assessment on BBC Sounds. That's a really good one. They'd like dispel like health trends and fads.
What James said.
That's a really good one. I'm a doctor, and I actually used to work with a very lonely GP trainer.
Very lovely.
Very lovely. I'm a doctor. I actually used to work with a very lovely GP trainee called Jacob, who I think is a friend of yours.
Jake, yeah.
Oh, of course. Jacob. I don't know if it's Jacob.
No, but I forget he's a Jacob as well.
Right.
I'll have to mention to him, he's
amazing.
getting married next month.
I am writing in about your breaking the seal question.
Yes.
Although, like James, I'm sure I said, you were like, I don't believe in the breaking the seal. And I was like, I think it might be a thing. But
yes, because you're talking about you were holding it in for a film. And
yeah.
I think it's just like, you just need to pee whenever.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I had a lot of water in my system, which I didn't think helped.
Yes.
Although, like James, I'm sure I've personally experienced this. I think you are right, George, in saying that the breaking the seal isn't a real psychological phenomenon. Physiological phenomenon.
This is why I read the emails as well. Just come in again, slower.
Alcohol is a diabetic. No, I'm kidding. Alcohol is a diuretic, so will generally make you need to pee more, regardless of when you last emptied your bladder. Consuming large volumes, like multiple pints of beer, will amplify the diuretic effect further still. On a separate note, I loved hearing James talk about frame rates with your Avatar: The Way of Water analysis, as well as in the last step, and I thought an exploration of the more technical aspects of filmmaking could be a cool segment for Double Take. Just a thought. Thank you for being the best podcasters out there. Ooh. Mary sent my iPhone. Yeah, we could jump into that. I mean, there's quite a lot to jump into, so without it being too inside baseball, technical aspects of filmmaking. I mean, you could take a pick. I could comment on bits of it.
It's all technical.
It's all very technical, yeah. But yeah, people might not know that all films are shot at the same frame rate unless otherwise shot in slow motion. It might be a thing that people know about, that video is frames in a second. But yeah, we can dodge that another time.
And Mary, you'll be happy to know that Lisa has also written in about breaking the seal. She says, hello, James and George. George and James, long-time listener, first-time emailer. James told me to say it. Yes, I think we did ask them.
Only doctors, thank you.
And Lisa just simply says, can confirm, as a kidney doctor from down under, that breaking the seal is not a thing, and don't hold on or you will explode.
Thank you. I nearly did. I really, really nearly did.
Lisa smiley face.
Arlo writes in with bathroom conundrum. Hello, James and George and James. Greetings from New Zealand.
Hey,
I've been listening to Pulp Kitchen for several months now, and I have to say, it's by far my favourite podcast I've ever listened to. Go and tell everyone.
Not just even his favourite podcast right now.
Everyone.
He's ever listened to.
Great. It's great news.
I hope, New Zealand's not a massive country. I feel like everyone knows there's like a good 6 degrees of separation there. You could probably spread the word quite well. I'd love to do a tour of New Zealand for the show.
If we do Australia, which is our third biggest territory, we should do New Zealand.
It's a common misconception that they are, Australia is the closest country next to it, but it's still a 4-hour flight from Sydney to
but
Auckland.
that side of the planet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If we're going there, yeah.
Totally
it's really, I agree.
If we're going to go to the Antipodes.
Yeah. Australasia. We're doing the Australasia tour. I'm not saving it for another trip. It's New Zealand this year.
We go all the way to New Zealand. No, Australia, 4 hours away.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. Listening to two down-to-earth gentlemen such as yourselves discuss film and TV so passionately makes me wish I had people like you in my life who share my interest in media. In one of your latest episodes, you mentioned how uncomfortable it can be when needing to go to the toilet during a cinema experience, and the horrible dilemma for us diehard film fans face between sticking with the movie or answering the call of nature.
I just want to say this. I love how the sirens have responded to this.
Yeah.
We just anecdotally were talking about you needing the loo, and now people have come back. Anyway.
The other day, I was finally able to catch the Academy Award winner for Best Animated Feature, Flow, at a local cinema. I was absolutely loving it and was thoroughly considering placing it at the top of my 2024 ranking. However, for the last half hour, I was absolutely busting. I knew the film was a short one, so I thought I'd be able to hold on. But eventually, I gave in and ran to the bathroom. That's the thing. If you know it's short, that can actually be the worst thing. Like if I knew it was for the 2:45, I'd write, I can't. This is going to be, I've got 2 hours left. Anyway. I knew the film was a short one, so I thought I'd be able to hold on, but eventually I gave in and ran to the bathroom. To my dismay, when I arrived back, the credits were rolling and I'd missed the final scene of the movie. Has this devastating experience ever happened to you? Also, do you think that me missing the final moments means I haven't truly watched the film? And do I have the right to crown this my favourite film of last year despite this fact? I must admit, I felt slightly guilty logging the film on Letterboxd afterwards and cursed my weak bladder for ruining what was up until then a fantastic cinema experience. Thank you so much for being a pleasure to listen to week in, week out, and keep up the amazing podcast. Cheers, Arlo. I mean, that has not happened to me, but I sympathise. Look, you can always just go and rewatch it, and I'm sure the last scene... how bad could it be that it could ruin one of your favourite films of 2024?
The irony that it's called Flow as well. You're just sat there thinking. I always think that like once you think you really need it, and like when you really do that, like it's more
distracting to hold it.
Yeah, the time you spend trying not to think about it will pull you out of the film more than just nipping out for 1 minute.
And it only gets worse. It crescendos. That feeling just gets worse and worse. If you feel it a little bit, it's like go, and then you almost got to do this like this temp check 5 minutes during the trailers. How am I? Do I need to go? Do I need to? Have I been? You know? No, I'm good. I'm good for 2 hours.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Sometimes you just can't help it.
Yeah.
And with September 5, I peed before.
And also, I would also just say, don't be too hard on yourself. You're only human. If you need to go during the film, it's okay. It's all right.
It's all right.
But there are. You know what the anxiety thing comes from though is that you and I have both. I'm sure you've had it as well. Like,
witness someone miss a really key scene.
Someone walk out, something massive happens, and they walk back in. I'm like, you've got no idea.
And that distracts me. I'm like, for the rest of the film, like that person does not know the context. They don't know that character is actually double crossing them. They don't know. I think my sister went to pee during Spectre and missed that Andrew Scott like turned. You remember he was a villain, spoilers for Spectre, and he like ended up being a bad guy. I was like, he's bad. Anyway, those are the emails that we got sent in. Thank you so much for sending them in. As always, you can send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com or support us on the VIP tier on Patreon to have priority access to have your email read out on the show.
James, as ever, Pulp Kitchen ends
with a game.
And today, James, it's my turn to give you a game. A new game. Just came up with on the train over.
New game.
I was thinking about the facts, just a couple of things, of the news last month. The whole... Blue Orbit, Blue Wonder, Katy Perry going up into space, Blue Origin, thank you, one of them. Blue Monday, Blue Valentine.
A PR disaster, some would say.
A absolute PR disaster. But yes, celebrities going up into space. You've got to be thinking about space movies. And I was wondering, there's been lots of space movies.
Of course.
A lot of actors in these movies.
It's the frontier. It's the biggest wonder.
But could you tell me the space movie from the face of the actor? Well, could you just tell me the space movie from the actor?
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to say an actor to you.
You
have to tell me what a space movie is. It's simple. We've got one round of it.
Do you think some actors are like, you've done a space movie yet? Oh, you got to do a space movie.
Yeah. You got to do that.
Yeah, like they've all done them. McConaughey, Interstellar.
And
Tom Hanks, Apollo. Sorry. I'm probably ruining
Could you?
your game.
Yeah, James, please. I've only got one round.
All right.
Goodness gracious me. Guess the space movie from the actor Ryan Gosling.
First Man.
Correct.
Great film, underrated.
Jessica Chastain.
Interstellar.
No, she doesn't go into space, does she?
Yeah, you're right. Let's go for The Martian.
Correct.
Yeah.
George Clooney.
For Gravity.
Yes, also
Solaris, yeah.
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood in space? No, go on.
He's in a movie called Space Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
Which has Tommy Lee Jones and Donald Sutherland in it.
Oh, nice.
And a blink and you'll miss it. John Hamm. Ben Affleck.
For Armageddon.
Correct. Yeah. Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt in Ad Astra.
Correct.
Yeah, beautiful film.
Tom Hanks.
For Apollo 13.
Thank you. Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. Oh, what's she done? She is in space in... God, what is it? What's the film called?
Well,
no, go on.
It's actually... I put Contact, but saying this to you now, isn't she also in Elysium as well, which I haven't seen? The Neil Blomkamp film.
I can't remember if she's in it. I've seen Elysium.
She's in it.
Okay.
But I don't know if she's in space.
I don't know if she's in... Yeah, she's in Elysium.
Space.
She's in space.
Great, there you go then.
Yeah, Elysium.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise goes to space. Oh, in Top Gun Maverick?
No, in... same director.
Oh, in Oblivion.
Correct.
Yeah.
I know he's
Oblivion.
technically like Earth, but he's in space.
I should have remembered Oblivion.
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg goes to space in... What is he go to space in?
Terrible movie.
Oh, Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Yes, he does come from space. Yeah.
I just think of
I don't
Planet
think
Ape.
of that as like a space film, but he's
No, but
totally
he
in
is.
space.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, of
totally-
course.
interstellar
in
travel.
space.
I'm in space. This guy's an ape. Mila Kunis.
Mila Kunis is in space in
The worst
Mila
Eddie
Kunis went to
Redmayne
space.
performance.
Jupiter Ascending. Yeah, there is
Yes.
space in that.
Like
Yeah.
Eddie Redmayne, not so sure about that performance.
Yeah.
And finally, Michael Jordan.
Space Jam.
Correct.
Yes.
Not Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
Yes.
He does go to space, half the thing.
Of
Goes
course,
to Toontown.
Of course.
James, that was the round of Guess the Space movie from the actor.
Space. You got to do a space film. If I was an actor, I'd like to do a space film. I want to float in zero G and do like the...
I want to do one film set in the future, one film set in the past.
There's also the film Life, which people don't remember, with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan
Hey,
Reynolds.
my train ride is only so long.
A lot of people don't remember it.
And I had a coffee today.
It was
with Jake.
okay. I didn't dislike it.
Did you-
the
but
talk,
did you
do you know
see-
the rumors about... Oh, no, go on. What are you going to say?
Did you see High Life? So you got Life, which is the big studio movie
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Jake.
yeah.
I saw High Life, which is the sort of A24
Movie.
movie version with Robert Pattinson
yeah,
and
was it
Mia
good?
Goth. It's all right.
Yeah. It
There's
looks good.
actually, this is a spoiler for the movie High Life, but on this spaceship, there's basically like a giant masturbation chamber.
Of course.
That's like a sex dungeon, and like, but like they use it as if they would, I don't know, be like, oh, I'm just going to go serve as part of the ship. They'd be like,
Yeah.
have you been? Okay, yeah. It goes in there, and there's just like sort of sex thing happening.
That's hot, isn't it? Space sex. Is it Rebecca Ferguson who's in
Life.
Life?
Yes, and you were going to tell me about the co-star thing.
This is rumors and speculation, but Rebecca Ferguson had publicly
Yes, yeah.
said that on the set of a very big studio movie with an ensemble cast, she had such a miserable experience working with an actor to the extent where she refused to act opposite him, and they would film the cutaway separately because he was on the top of the call sheet and he had this big ego. And it was in the wake of the Blake Lively Ryan Reynolds drama with Justin Balboni that this was percolating up, and the rumor is that it's Ryan Reynolds. This is again just a rumor. That is a wasp. Okay,
And
it's
he's gone.
It's gone. And the rumor is that he is unpleasant to work for, and that she was talking very explicitly about him because people looked at the cast, all the other co-stars.
Could it be Jake Gyllenhaal though?
No, because they used by process of elimination and like the other things they'd worked on, like seeing them interact, and it wasn't a negative experience. So they ruled out Jake Gyllenhaal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It's again just a rumor.
I can see the Netflix documentary coming. Like the,
Oh my
the
god.
fall
Yeah.
of the.
Yeah. Their brand is sort of not in the best shape.
That was
There
the
you
week
go.
that was. That was episode 179 of Pulp Kitchen. Hope you enjoyed it. Thunderbolts.
about-
Thunderbolts. Every joke be loud. I didn't
Pulp
mind it.
Kitchen 200, George. It's coming.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah.
This is now the post-credit scene for our own podcast. We have plans. Stay tuned.
Thank you very much for joining us on the show this week. Don't forget, we do also do Double Take on Patreon, where we talk about all the exciting news that's happened this week. And we will be posting another one of those on Friday, so do make sure you are signed up to check that out. Thank you as ever to our producers, Finn and Dave, and do continue to check us out on social media for film bites and such fun. Ta-ra.
Bye, guys.
And goodbye.
See you next week.